All right, Programming 12, we are going to do another lesson about the touching circles and rectangles with the mouse. But instead of learning a new way of doing it, we're just going to tidy up our code by using functions. So instead of using a void function, today we're going to use a Boolean function. So just using the same sketch, I'm going to make a function that returns a value. And it will allow me to call the function from within inside of an if statement. So that I can say, I can replace all this kind of ugly math with just a function call. And then I can reuse that over and over again. So I don't have to remember like the mouse X and the mouse Y and all this stuff. You just have a function and you feed it in the numbers and it will do this kind of, true or false math. So this is a Boolean function. Instead of saying void, I can say Boolean. And that means it's going to return an answer that is true or false, as opposed to a void function, which just does a bunch of things. So I'm going to make the one called touching rect, and that's going to be for the rectangular math. And I'm going to send it, I guess I'm going to send it ints, but maybe float might be more multi-purpose, but I'll just do ints for now. So int, there'll be an x coordinate, a y coordinate, width, and a height. And I'm also going to make a Boolean function called touching circle. So that will have an int x, an int y, and I don't know if I'm going to put radius or diameter. I'll put radius, I guess. I haven't quite decided if that's the best way to do it. Okay, so these are complaining right now. You see they're underlined because I'm not returning an answer yet. But I'm just going to let that be for now, and I'll just make sure later I return an answer. Basically, return means to answer the question. And the question I want to program here is, given these numbers, x, y, width, and height, is the mouse inside of that rectangle? And touching circle does the same, but for circles. So what's the math involved? So basically, I'm going to have this math here encoded. So I can say basically all this math here. I can copy that, but I'm going to make it general, right? I want to make it general. So I can say if, this is happening, but instead of saying specific numbers, I can say if it's less than x, it's greater than x, and it's less than x plus the width. And if it's greater than y, and less than y plus height. So this is, a generic formula for what the rectangle math is in general. So then if it's true, I can return true, else I can return false. And that basically answers the question. So I can say, hey, if all that turns out to be true, the answer was true, otherwise it's false. So touching rect, now I can call from inside of a function. So instead of having this big long thing, I can say, let's zoom over here, if touching rect. And I can just put in the numbers of my rectangle. Boop. There we go. So touching rect is a little bit nicer than typing that over and over again. Next time I make a rectangle, I can just do that. Okay, so now we got ourselves the circle math as well. We can put into a function. So I can take our circle math and just make it generic. So instead of saying, specific numbers, I'll say if the distance between the center of the circle and the mouse X and mouse Y is less than the radius. Then I can return true. Hard to spell true for some reason. Otherwise, return false. All right, so now I have encapsulated this math into a function. So let's go and, let's see. So that would be here. Now I can say touching circle instead of that. And this is where I wondered, should I put the 50 or not, or the radius or not? Because now if I put in the math, I have to change this. I have to divide by 2 and remember to do so. Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. Either way, it's good. And now my code is a little more readable, right? Like I fill with brown. And if it's touching rectangle. Maybe mouse touching rectangle might be a better name for this. So you can always rename by right-clicking and go to rename. So if you're like touching rect, I think that we should talk about the mouse touching rect or something. Like you can rename it, and then it will rename it down here as well. So that's a nice feature. I'm gonna rename this one too. I'm gonna rename it to mouse touching circle. Yeah. Now this if statement really reads nicely, right? Reads like a charm. So that's going well, I think, so far. So now I can also, in my mouse pressed function, I can put this code in here too. So I can use mouse touching rect elsewhere. I can reuse it. So mouse touching rect is going to go in here. And look at that sentence. It's like now it's almost like a sentence when I read this code. It's better than a comment. If your code reads like a sentence, you don't necessarily need a comment. And that's self sort of documenting code is a beautiful thing to try to create. All right, so I'm going to put that in there now. Now, I have not made my program work any differently. If I run this, my program works just the same, right? But my code is so much more readable. And if I got to go make another button, well, it's so easy. I can just basically use this same code again, and I can just type in mouse touching circle or mouse touching rect. And I just need to put in the numbers. But you know what? Let's go one step further. But wait, there's more. Do you see some repetition going on here? Like, that, and like this, like all this if, stroke white, stroke black, all this kind of stuff. Oh, there's just like, I would like to replace this all with instead of saying rect, I would like to say a function that was like draw like a tactile rect. And then give it, 100, 100, 200, 100. And in tactile rect, it will draw that rect, and it will do the math for checking to see if we're being moused over or something like that. That sounds really nice. So let's go and make that function, and then I can replace all that stuff. So I'll make a tactile rect button and a tactile circle button, which will encapsulate this logic. So we'll have functions within functions. This will just be a void function because it doesn't have to return an answer. It's just going to draw stuff on the screen. So I'll go down even further, and I'll say void tactile rect. It will need a x, a y, a width, and a height. And it's basically just whatever this stuff is here. Oh, you know what else we could do? We could also do color as well. We could do color inside and color. I'll just do a color inside for now. F maybe for fill. Color fill. And so now I will fill with the F color, and I will draw the rect at x, y, width, and height. And I will check to see if the mouse is touching that rectangle at x, y, width, height, and it can fill with the right color, and I can choose to stroke white or black, and then it will draw the rectangle. So now instead of all that noise up here, I can just replace this with tactile rect, and that will draw the tactile rect. I seem to have made a problem here. Oh yeah, I forgot to put in the color. This is the brown one. Okay, great. So if I run this, it works. And you might think, so what? Who cares? It just did more work. But no, because now if I want to make a new button, I can say maybe I want to make a dark green button. I can say tactile rect, and I can choose where it goes. I could say 300, 300, 200, 100, and I could say it's I'll do dark green. And if I run it, then I got a new button that's already tactile, and I just wrote one function. So I've saved myself a lot of effort for the future. So tactile rect is really nice to make that work. What about tactile circle? I'll let you write the tactile circle function yourself. It's basically going to be doing the same thing as this, but you're going to make it generic, so that you could say, you can call a function like tactile circle and send it some numbers, 300, 500, and 100 diameter, and it will make a tactile circle for you. So that would be really fantastic. So as your sort of second part of the checkpoint for this, I would like you to convert your code into tactile rect and tactile circle functions, so that still has those 5 different buttons that are a variety of rectangles and circles, and they're still tactile, but you're using these kind of powerful functions that encapsulate that logic and don't make you repeat yourself over and over again. Okay? Thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope that made sense, and please feel free to ask questions as you go. Bye.